Hi, this is Jeff Cohn from SI Restoration, and we're going to talk today about mold testing and the different people who do test for mold and understanding the differences. So, first of all, my name is Jeff Cohn again from SI Restoration. We're in Baltimore, Maryland, and we serve Baltimore, Washington, DC, and Maryland. Now, the reason that I feel that I am qualified to have this conversation about mold testing is that we don't test for mold. Our company does not test for mold. And I'm going to get into it why we don't. But what it does do after 35 years is we've kind of watched other mold testing companies and have got a very good understanding and an understanding who and when you should be contacting a mold testing company and which type of mold testing company you should choose. There are different levels. So let's go ahead and begin. And let's go with an example that I like to use where I always say, okay, you've got mold and you run to the internet and there are hundreds of companies and everybody sounds wonderful. Okay. Nobody's going to sit there and go, we're an okay company. Everybody's wonderful. And you say, okay. And so you look, and just happens that you have a real estate agent, and the real estate says, oh, I use Henry. He's he's like a phenomenal. He's the best mold test there is. Okay, great. So you hire Henry, and Henry comes out, and you don't know this, but Henry has only taken a 3 to 5 day course, and he may have taken a couple of classes, but they're about 3 to 5 days. And you take a little test, and that's it. And it's nothing official. And now you're a mold tester. Okay. So anybody, you can become a mold tester. It's very easy. Just have to have $1,000 or whatever the cost is to have the class and sit in the class for 3 days. And I'm sure you learn things, and I'm sure you are more knowledgeable. But the question is, is this person, this Henry qualified to be able to solve the issue? So that's what we're going to discover. So Henry comes out and he does his normal testing, which is usually either an air sampling machine, which is expensive, and or what's called surface testing. Now, because I'm not in the mold testing world, there's arguments with surface testing. I'm not going to get into that. All I'm going to tell you that let's in our pretend situation, that's what he did, and he takes it to what's called an accredited lab. And the lab is probably accredited. Most of the labs out there are national or regional, and they're well known and they do a great job. And they come back, and 3 days later, and they hand the results to you and the mold tester, and it's like 20 pages of these massive scientific words and mold names of molds that you've never heard of, and it's scary. And they tell you got a million part of this and a million part of that, and you're like, oh my God, what do we do, Henry? What do we do? And he says, well, you gotta get rid of it. Okay, so Henry says, look, I know this company, XYZ, mold removal. If there's an XYZ, I apologize. It's just I'm just using this as an example. So XY mold removal goes in, and you hand them the test. I'm sorry, the report, and they look at it. And if they're honorable, okay, and honest, they're going to look at it and go, I don't know what this means. Okay. And you're thinking, well, hold it. How do you not know what it means? You should know this. And the answer is most mold remediation companies don't want to know what it means because it's our job to remove following certain guidelines. Unfortunately, we're not scientists. Mold remediators are not scientists, and we don't have the education, but we do have the education to correctly remove it. And you say, well, great, remove it. Okay. Well, you probably may ask yourself, well, then why did I get the mold testing done? What was the point? I just wasted between $400 and $600 just to kind of know what the funny names of the mold is. And does that make a difference between how it's removed? No, the answer is no. There's a standard procedures, and it doesn't matter whether you got blue cheese or aspergillus mold. And I probably pronounced it wrong. And that's it. People ask me, what do I think about, toxic mold and this? And I said, because I'm not a scientist, because I'm not a medical professional, I don't want to know because then I maybe give you advice that could be wrong. Again, my profession is removing it and making sure it's gone. Now, you then say, okay, then why don't we just go ahead and have you remove it? And we say, great. And by the way, what's your guarantee? I love this one. You will have mold remediation companies that will give you a guarantee, a lifetime guarantee. And I'm throwing this in, even though it has nothing to do with mold testing. We're throwing this, I want to throw this a little tidbit of free information to you to realize that as long as there's no moisture issues, I can guarantee a lifetime of mold because of new mold growth. Because to get mold to grow, you need a food source, and that is the dust in the air, your skin cells, the drywall, the carpet, whatever is available that could be eaten. That's a food source. You need warm temperatures. Now you may say, well, gee, my house isn't really warm. It's okay. Well, no, anything over, 65 degrees starts to get into that, maybe 70 is where mold loves it. Okay, it needs warm. If it's cold, it's not going to grow. Well, and you're missing the third one, which is moisture. Well, you don't have moisture until you have a water damage issue, or you have a leak, or you have high humidity. So as long as you don't have those, the third one, which is moisture, after you have the mold remediation, you won't have mold growth most likely. So that's why the lifetime warranties or any warranty is complete bogus. Anyway, back to testing. So you've now said, gee, if I could go back and push the hands of time back, I wouldn't have gotten that mold testing done. Right. Okay. So you go back and you say, okay, Jeff, but you said there are different types of testing. Yes. And why would there be different types of testing? Because it really depends on the situation you're in. This is my personal belief, and it is not representative of SI restoration or anybody's. It's just my personal belief, and when I give people my 2 cents. If you have mold in your home and everybody doesn't have an actual medical diagnosis of a breathing issue or medical issue of some kind, I think that normally what you do is have the mold remediation done correctly and then have it tested afterwards by, again, any mold tester. If you have two situations that I believe, when I hear people tell me one of two situations, that I would say has to go to what I call a higher level tester. And that is one, if you have elderly parents or elderly people in the house, if you have respiratory issues, if you have medical issues of some kind, and you then have mold, I would go with what's called an industrial hygienist. Now, when you hear the word industrial hygienist, you think of factories and warehouses and businesses. And you're correct. That's where it started. I don't hold this on me, but I believe the industry of industrial hygienists came from the John Updike book of the factories that didn't have, I mean, the manufacturers of food plants. And it kind of grew from that, from unhealthy commercial factories that were producing, food and other items to mold situations and odor situations. So what happens is that because the folks who are industrial hygienists are also basically scientists who have a lot of degrees in biology and other science, they're able to um, do a better job of testing correctly, and number two, knowing when it's a safe environment. So let's kind of go over that. And then you're asking me, well, gee, but they're not going to come to my house. The answer is yes. There are plenty of industrial hygienists that will come and do a residential home. You just have to you just have to look under the internet under industrial hygienist and ask them or it probably says on the website whether they do homes or not. But some do homes. Are they more money? Yes. A whole bunch more money. I don't know what you call a whole bunch, but probably 800 to $1,000 dollars on average, and it probably goes up. So it's expensive, but here's the difference. They have the training and knowledge to correctly at a higher level to do the testing correctly the first time, done correctly, and then taking it to the lab. And what happens? Oh, I forgot to tell you. So, well, we'll save that for the end. So, what happens is that the industrial hygienist gets the report. Now they know how to read it and they know how to analyze it. And so, what they say is, okay, you've got this problem, this problem, this problem, but we're going to include what's called a protocol. A protocol list is what I call my personal name for it is a laundry list of what to do. And they say, you got to do this, 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 you got to do this. Now, they also recommend that they have a mold remediation contractor who is certified through the IICRC. That's the Institution of it's the Institute of Inspection for Cleaning and Restoration. And I am actually certified as an IICRC in mold remediation myself. And you want to make sure that the company, and our company, SI Restoration, is, but I just threw that in there. So what happens is at that point, the company like us, who's certified through the IICRC, because most of the times that's what they quote is the IICRC, um, we're able to look at this list and go, oh, okay, so we need to do this, and this to be able to solve the problem. Normally, those suggestions are not suggestions, those protocols are part of the IICRC S502 guidelines for mold remediation. Good chance. So what happens is now we're able to actually follow that, and we're good a good 90% of the time that I've experienced, you're going to have a successful the first time you're going to have a successful situation. What I mean by successful situation is the restoration company is going to come in. If you look at one of my other videos on mold remediation, I explain the IICRC 502 guidelines, but I'm going to stick, I'm not going to get into it right now because I want to keep this video short. And we follow those guidelines. And then the industrial hygienist comes back and does what's called a clearance test or a post test. A clearance test basically says, hey, we want to be cleared. We want to make sure this is a healthy environment. An industrial hygienist knows, first of all, I want you a little background issue. You're never going to get rid of mold 100%. You can get mold spores down to a safe level so that it's healthy. And so what happens is your industrial hygienist knows what that safe level is, especially when you're dealing with somebody with health issues. And so what happens is they're going to go back and they're going to be able to take the test back and they're going to say, guess what? Whatever company it is, you passed or you didn't pass. If you didn't pass, then what happens is that they look at the job because they go and inspect it and they say, guess what? SI restoration, for example, for argument's sake, you forgot to do some things. Okay, so you're probably not going to pass, or we'll test you anyway, but I don't think you're going to pass. And so what happens is that normally if you don't follow exactly what the industrial hygienist says about 90% of the time, you're going to fail 90% of the time. Now there are, when I said 90, because there are 10% of times where the a restoration company or the mold remediation company, mold removal company, follows it to a T, and it's boom perfect. And yet there's still high levels. That's because mold could be hidden in areas where the industrial hygienist didn't see it because the wall's still up. So now that the wall is down, or the wall's been removed, or the area's been removed, or the area's been cleaned, whatever the situation is, they're able to say, okay, well, I can see why it didn't pass because we got more stuff or more things need to be done. The benefit of this is that when the industrial hygienist says you're clear, you can pretty much feel secure that you're in a pretty good situation for mold removal. Now, I also recommend an industrial hygienist for property owners. Now, I know most property owners don't want to spend any money, and I'm with you, but you also have to remember if you've got a tenant who is complaining or an occupant who is complaining about mold remediation, and there is mold there, you could be looking at a lawsuit or a possible lawsuit. Now, that means that if you need to have somebody who's going to go in and prove that it has been taken care of and been taken care of correctly. So that's it with the industrial hygienist. Now, you can use a regular, what I call the 3-day test guys who took a 3-day class or a 3-day test, a 3-day class, and come in and do a clearance test. And some of them come in, and some of them are very good, and they are knowledgeable, and they do a good job. Okay. I wouldn't, if I was being possibly sued, I wouldn't want to bring them in, but I would bring them in for your normal situations where they're able to write protocols and they'll be able to go in and do pretty much what an industrial hygienist does at a much less price or less cost. So those are the differences. And so I just want everyone to be educated about mold testing coming from somebody who is in the industry, but not a mold tester. Thank you very much, and I appreciate it. Thanks.